All right, so we're talking about The Walking Dead March to War, which is following the current storyline in the comics, which may be more familiar to people watching the show as well. Can you give us a quick overview about what's going on?
Sure. So we have a mobile strategy game that is coming to the market on Apple and Android in late summer 2017, so just a short time now. And basically what we've done is we've created an awesome world that extends past the Walking Dead world. It puts you in, it lets you be a leader of a community, just like a Rick or a Maggie or one of those awesome characters that you're familiar with. And it takes place around Volume 19, so the March to War, which is where we get our title. Really when that world for Rick and the other folks in Alexandria, when their world expands and they realize there's so much more out there. So it lets you take on that role and develop your community and your survivors and really just get past that, hopefully get past that age of survival where you're working with other people to really survive and do better in this world.
The art in this game looks really comic book-like, close to it, and it seems to be 3D, which sets it apart from, I mean, when you hear mobile strategy game, you have a certain image in your head of what it is, but this is not that.
No, it's very different. So we're very proud of our art style. We know it'll look a little bit familiar for comic fans, but we're excited to sort of move past that a little bit in a way that makes sense for the world. So something we really try to accomplish, like I was saying, with making you feel like a leader of a community, was thinking about how in this world you would show other people who your allies are. So if you wanted to tell someone who Rick was, you wouldn't take a photo. You have no way to develop a picture in this world at this point. So you would have someone draw a picture, and it probably would be pretty quick. It wouldn't be a big oil painting or something like that. So that's the style we were going for, something that feels like you would see if you were living in that world.
Very good. So you're playing as council members who are the characters you're more familiar with, but then there's other characters too.
That's right. So you don't play as Rick, but you can work with Rick. So Rick comes around and he leads survivors for you who are, they have special photos and, they have special art and portraits, and they have a little bit of description text and some flavor so that you really get to know them, because so often in this genre you get tens of thousands or even millions sometimes of troops or armies, but that's not how The Walking Dead works. You have only a couple of survivors, like a dozens maybe, that you really work with. So that's what we've brought it down to make it feel like this world and get you attached to those folks and feel like you have a connection to them, really.
So there's a player versus player aspect, but there's a player versus environment aspect. We'll break it down.
Okay, great. So player versus player, there's a lot of that. It's a strategy game, so there are limited resources on the map, and you have to fight other people for them sometimes. So the quickest way to get resources is to take them from another player. So you can do that, and that's the player versus player. The player versus environment involves a couple of different strategies. So there are mission nodes and supply nodes, which are pretty easy ways to pick up some resources or some comic book covers, which are how you upgrade your council members or unlock them. So that'll get you your canon characters that you're familiar with. You also have walker swarms, so those will actually send out attacks against your base if they are close to you, just like what you would expect from a Walking Dead world, right? So in the earlier game, it's a little bit more of the walker swarms, but later on you get more into the PvP, because that's kind of how Walking Dead goes, right? You first have to, have to deal with the walkers and learn how to survive. But then you have to deal with the people because they're much more dangerous.
I was going to say, am I more likely to be my downfall to be by walkers or people somehow using the walkers?
Not at this point, but we've definitely thought a lot about that and how we can include them to make it feel more like The Walking Dead and use them as some sort of a additional threat.
So we could build our own settlements, not necessarily in Alexandria or Hilltop, but on our own. but we can go to Alexandria and
That's
Hilltop.
right. You can, yeah. We're really excited. We think they look awesome in the game, and that folks can work with their alliances, so they can join other players to go into these locations and take them over. So the system we have, it's called landmarks, and so sometimes they'll open up, and you'll go in, and you'll get extra resources. It'll be the best, another awesome way to farm resources, but also just being there is amazing. I mean, looking at them in the game, they just look awesome. I mean, who doesn't want to be in Alexandria, or who doesn't want to take over Hilltop? Yeah. We also, taking place in the Washington, D.C., Alexandria area, we also have some fun ones like the White House. So we've seen a lot of competition over things like that, the White House or the Lincoln Memorial, things like that. Yeah.
Okay, so that'll be fun for people who live around there now.
Yeah.
And see what shambles the world has turned into.
Right.
Is there any way, because I know this is possible in the show and the comic, is there any way for my group to be entirely wiped out and destroyed?
Oh boy. Not exactly. So your survivors are at risk of dying, just like they would be in The Walking Dead. Your council members, they will survive. They will continue to help you out, help you rebuild. But yeah, you can ask for help from your community members to sort of get reduce some timers to get you back up and going a little bit faster. So working with people is really important at that stage. And also we have a triage system that as your survivors are getting, should they be in danger as they're getting injured, if they reach a critical point, they'll come back to your base and be auto-filled into your infirmaries. And then if you run out, then they end up in this triage system. Now the triage system says, okay, what are you going to do now? Your person is clearly in trouble. You've been bit now, or like maybe you have to remove a limb or something like that. Or God forbid you choose to mercy kill them. So it's kind of a little bit jarring, but it feels like The Walking Dead, let me tell you.
How else, lastly, does this bring the world of The Walking Dead, the comics, to, I guess, life? Yeah. Not life?
So at Disruptor Beam, we have an awesome art team that has spent a lot of time making the map look amazing. And now our map runs, it covers a span of 9 miles to 18 miles. So it's huge. And there are so many details. I mean, even in the shadows, you can see kind of sketch marks and things like that evoke the comic book feel. And we have little stories all over the place. So there'll be Humvees, there's tanks, there's crashed helicopters, things like that you look at it and you're like, something happened here. Like, I could see how this could spread from around the White House, from around the government. Maybe they were the safe area, and then they weren't. And now there's so much destruction and things like that. So,
sad story.
Yes, graffiti that says "help" on roofs and things like that. But there are folks out there that you can form alliances with, and they'll help you out. So, yeah, that's another way that we do that.
Awesome. So this comes out late summer?
Yes, that's right, on Android and iOS. And if folks want to get some more information, we have marchtowar.com where folks can sign up for our survivors list, and we'll send out any upcoming news on when it's coming out, and you'll be the first one to hear anything like that.